making fun of, my friend Rafael Della Vedove, a real Broncos analyst who loves Philadelphia teams, that tonight is kind of like a dark Thursday for Philadelphia sports fans. With the Eagles, losing to the 1-4 Jets, and the Phillies again disappointing and out in the postseason. But the Dodgers, they weren't, I feel like, as good as they were last season. They had to go to the wild card. They weren't the best team in the NL, but they are again in the NLCS. But it took 11 innings to eliminate the Phillies tonight.
Right, and they're going to face the winner of the Milwaukee Brewers and the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs are up 3-0 right now on the top of the fifth inning, but Milwaukee leads the series. However, the Brewers have 2 in scoring position. So the Cubs win tonight. We'll be going back to Milwaukee for a Game 5. Who do you think between those two stands a better shot against the Dodgers in the NLCS?
I feel like the Cubs have the momentum, and if they win tonight, I feel like they're going to take Game 5. But if the Brewers somehow come back in, and win it, of course they're going to be in. But they were the better team throughout this series. But with this win, the Cubs can change the momentum. And in baseball, of all sports, momentum is even more important than ever.
Absolutely. And this has been a very home field dominant series so far. The question is, if Chicago wins here, can they flip that on Saturday in Milwaukee? That certainly will be a fascinating series there. I do think whoever wins, though, will definitely be the underdogs against Los Angeles. But I would, and I know the Brewers would have home field advantage against the Dodgers if they win. But still, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm trusting the Dodgers.
For me, the Cubs win in 5, and then the Dodgers win in 4 to go back to the World Series.
You're going with a sweep for the Dodgers in the NLCS.
No, actually, I forgot it.
Yeah,
it's already in 7
in the championship series.
So it's gonna be a gentleman sweep, 4-1.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. I guess whoever wins, I'll probably lean towards the Cubs coming back. Now, in the AL, we got to start with the Yankees.
The Yankees lose, like Big Papi says.
Man, not only did they lose a series 3-1 to Toronto Blue Jays, but man, they got basically just slapped around most of the time. And those 2 games in Toronto were alarming, to say the least. They got just ran out of Canada. They got just demolished up north, and they come back. They win Game 3. Then in Game 4, they had multiple chances to tie the game, to really put some pressure on Toronto, and they just couldn't get it done. Actually, one of my friends who's a Yankees fan, he was sending me this. If you look at the OPS, Aaron Judge was above 1.2. No one else on the roster was even close. Giancarlo Stanton, for example, was 0.4. And it just seems like a lot of these stars that the Yankees have signed outside of Aaron Judge just aren't producing.
Yes, and all the pressure go back again to Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone. Is this duo, are they done in the Bronx? Because again, they are, and you point out perfectly, they're not extracting the best out of this team and relying a lot of one player that on the postseason kind of, I don't think Aaron Judge shrinks, but it's not their best. It's not like everybody says Aaron Judge is October kind of player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously I know the Yankees made the World Series last year and had every opportunity to win Game 1 of that World Series, and that could have maybe changed the whole complexion of that series if they had stolen the game in Los Angeles. But outside of that, I mean, they've been running into the same walls over and over and over again. And at the end of the day, you are the New York Yankees. You have the most or the second most money to spend in the major leagues, right? Like you don't have a salary cap. You're New York. You should go out and you should be competitive basically every single year. And right now, they're just not living up to that potential. And I think the Yankees ownership would be well within their rights to make a change at both GM and manager.
That's why I said it's going to be adding a pressure towards Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone. I mean, Aaron Boone in the press conference says he expects to be back at the Yankees helm. But I mean, I feel like, for example, Jody Girardi was fired and was producing exactly the same results, if not more.
Because like he was a manager when they won their last one, right? No, wait. 09.
Yeah, in 09, yeah.
Yeah. And I just wonder who they would hire. I'm not like well versed in the potential manager hires out there for MLB openings. So it feels like, for any manager worth their salt, right? Like you would have to salivate over wanting the New York Yankees job. Because it's the most iconic team in Major League Baseball.
Oh yeah, I mean taking over the Yankees is such a huge responsibility. I mean, I don't see, and probably they're gonna try to find another player of that, a former player throughout the era. Aaron Boone and Joe Girardi. The last two managers were from that era of players. I don't see A-Rod or even Derek Jeter, taking over as managers. I mean, A-Rod is happy at Fox, and Derek Jeter is more in an ownership position. So,
and you're not going to hire anyone that's going to go Moneyball or have to do some crazy analytical stuff, right? I mean, you're the Yankees. You can go out and buy whatever you want. In terms of players, it's like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Mets to a certain extent. Like these teams have, they have what they like to say FU money. They've got.
Yeah, because if you get one of those kind of GMs that relies a lot on analytics and try to get the best out of a limited budget, you tend to kind of make fans not happy with the franchise, because as you point out perfectly, Yankees, Dodgers, I put even the Phillies on this. Yankees, Dodgers, Phillies, the Mets, and those four are kind of like the franchises that tend to be setting the standard or setting the cap on baseball spending.
Right. I mean, it's not the Oakland. There's a reason why the Oakland A's were the one to create Moneyball. Of course,
West Sacramento A's.
Yeah, soon to be the Vegas A's, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe the nowhere A's at some point. We don't know where they're gonna go. The Nashville A's, the Chattanooga A's.
Why not?
Yeah, we have a new stadium that's coming soon. I don't know if you got to see my tour of it earlier.
Yeah, I saw. It's in the very. It's like what, 50% complete?
Yeah, I'd say a bit over that. They have about 6 months until opening pitch, but it feels like a stadium. Like I think it's going to be very similar to the new Knoxville Stadium, I think. So,
and how about AT&T Park? Are they going to tear it down?
Oh, they'll tear it down. I think the preliminary plans are to put a new neighborhood up there. But there are a couple of other things that have been thrown around, like a potential federal courthouse, a bunch of other stuff. I don't think the courthouse is going to go up there. But
I mean, because it's close to downtown, but not in downtown.
Of course, my headcanon is third building for the Tennessee Aquarium. That's my pitch. Like utilize that thing for more tourism. But
yeah, I can see that
happen. But This isn't the Chattanooga podcast, but in any case, if we had a Chattanooga specific podcast, I would go much more into detail over what I would like to see on Hawk Hill. Really, the real answer is an amphitheater. Is the real answer. But in any case,
but to finish it off, the AL for me, the story of this playoffs is definitely the other ALDS. There's going to go to a do or die game 5 in Seattle, Washington, where probably the Mariners fans waited this game for years, more even decades.
I mean, all the pressure in this game 5 is on the Seattle Mariners. 100%. It's at home. You finally have won a division. You cannot let an insurgent Detroit Tigers team come in and knock you out.
I mean, which is this Detroit Tigers team is the most bipolar team ever. Like, because they dominated the most part of the regular season, and then they fell apart by the end. They lost the division, went to the wild card, and then they beat the team who beat them in the division, in the division run, and they're one win away to go to the ALCS. I mean, there's no explanation.
Right. And, of course, it's been back and forth, right? Because, they stole game 1, and then they blew out the Mariners in game 4. The Mariners took 2 and 3. It seems like to me, right? Because I believe George Kirby should be on the mound tomorrow.
Yeah, against Tariq Sukubo.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, ace versus ace there. Biggest game of his career for sure, at least, especially in Seattle. I would tend to think Seattle gets this done, but sometimes in baseball, when a team has all the pressure, sometimes it benefits being the team with the less pressure.
Because the Seattle Mariners right now, they're kind of where, for example, maybe the Cubs in 2003, the Guardians a couple of times, where the pressure of not winning it, tends to, it gets you.
Oh, absolutely. Like that's in the back of your mind. You want to be that team. Oh boy, Jalen Hurts, what are you doing?
What a pick.
Oh my goodness. We'll have to talk about this later. It's the Eagles' offense broken. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Man. Yeah, I still think Seattle's going to get it done, though. And before we get back, we didn't talk enough about Toronto. Toronto, to me, looks like the best team right now out there. At least the team that's playing the best out of everyone that's left. I know the Dodgers are probably more talented top to bottom, but the Blue Jays look like an absolute wagon.
I'll say this. They're on the making, because after that mid-2010s runs, I mean, when they had the Bautista, controversy, they had that, playoff run that didn't go so well. They went on a big rebuild, and it's finally paying off.
Oh, 100%. Like they're good. They're good. In any case, whoever wins this game, by the way, I think the Blue Jays will beat them. I think we are in store right now for a Blue Jays Dodgers World Series. It's going to be a very blue World Series.
I think it's going to be Mariners Dodgers.
Yeah, which was my original pick, but to me, the Mariners have been more impressive, or the Blue Jays. But I am rooting for Seattle, though. I would like to see Seattle get it done. All right, let's get into, and that was Jalen Hurts' first interception in 305 passes. He kind of threw that one a little bit late, and Flute, number 28 for the Giants, took that. Let's do some college football talk. Obviously, our Vols were off this past week, so no Vols game to talk about from Saturday. However, an ex-Vol probably stole the spotlight on Saturday. Nico Imilava and UCLA stunned Penn State. We didn't even talk about this game last week in preview. Like, we didn't think there was anything to talk about in this game. But, man, UCLA, they fire their OC. They bring in Jerry Neuheisel, who had 2 days to install his offense. and they beat Penn State 42-37. They're up 27-7 at halftime here. Gus, this feels like a potential point of no return for James Franklin. Like he tried to come out and tweet Monday, like, "Hey, move on. It's on to Northwestern. We're gonna go 1-0 this week. Northwestern. But like, after losing another top 10 game last week to Oregon, you cannot follow that up with a disaster loss to UCLA, and that's exactly what happened here. I think this is just a point of no return for James Franklin.
Yeah, I think the same. Fans, Penn State fans, they are just probably done with James Franklin because they always get hyped up. They always feel like this, team is ready and to reach the point where they are ready to beat those top 10 teams, but they always fell apart. They always ended up not making it. Last week, 2 weeks ago, they had a chance to be a very good Oregon team at home, but Dan Lanning said something that kind of got in. Wow, what a pass! Almost caught by former Vol.
Oh yeah, Jalen Hyatt. He's got a couple of catches tonight.
Almost got it. But I think I'm not taking UCLA's credit away, but at the same time, it was more like Penn State really felt that loss and couldn't come back than UCLA pulling off something miraculously. But of course, this interim coaching. Those coaches that came deserve a lot of credit because in football, it's really hard to implement a system in an offseason. Imagine in 2 days, and they were able to get not only their first win of the season, but probably their only ranked win of the season. And not only they beat a ranked team, a top 10 team.
Right, and from a defensive standpoint, Penn State just got absolutely cooked here. I mean. I'll give Nico this. And obviously, right, I have not had many nice words. I don't know if I've said a single nice word about Nico on this podcast since he left Tennessee. But I'll say this, but I will now. Nico, this was the best game he has played as a college quarterback. Easily, by far, is better than any game that he ever played at Tennessee. And the thing here that is crazy to me is that we never really saw him run a lot at Tennessee, right? Like he ran a little bit in the Citrus Bowl, but then throughout most of last year, we never saw him run at all. And I think part of that was we didn't really trust our backup situation, and Josh Allen didn't want him to get hurt. We had Dylan Sampson, so you didn't really need him to run a lot. But we didn't utilize his legs, and especially with the fact that he wasn't a very good passer. I still don't particularly think he's a great passer. The reason why UCLA won this game was he ran for well over 100 yards. And UCLA needs it, right? Like their running backs are good. Like I like Javion Thomas for UCLA, but the O-line's not very good, right? Like, I mean, Nico has to run a lot more in that offense because the weapons are just not as good. So it's a necessity thing for UCLA for him to run. But at some point, Penn State, right? Like they've got top level athletes at Penn State, especially compared to UCLA. Where's the spies? Why are you just letting Nico run on you over and over and over again? And then they couldn't stop the RPOs. Some of those touchdowns were off RPOs, and they could not adjust to this offense at all. And give credit to Jerry Neuheisel when he called a very good game. The whole thing, after the first touchdown drive, UCLA got an extra 3 points off of an onside kick because Penn State special teams just screwed that one up. And then, too, when you look at the rushing attack for Penn State, Drew Aller was their leading rusher as well. Penn State has 2 NFL quality running backs, Nick Singleton and Contravion Allen. They're not being properly used. Contravion Allen had 8 carries in this game. Penn State should have been run in this game because UCLA, keep in mind, remember, this team got blown out at home by New Mexico. They lost to UNLV. Like, you should be able to run through UCLA. And Penn State just didn't do that. And Drew Aller didn't play bad in this game, but everywhere else for Penn State was such a failure that yes, obviously you can say a hangover, long travel. They didn't think they had to show up for this game. All that can be true, but it is at the end of the day a massive indictment on James Franklin, and I think it's indicative to me that he is never going to win big at Penn State. He's never winning a national championship. He did. The only reason why he even got close last year was a fortunate playoff path, right? Because of the way the wonky seeding, Ohio State losing to Michigan at the end of the regular season, they were able to luck into playing SMU at home, who should have been nowhere close to the playoff. Then they got to play Boise State, who lucked into a bye. And then, you got to play Notre Dame, Notre Dame was really good last year. I don't think Notre Dame was great. And Penn State probably should have won that game. They probably should have been in the national championship in what would have been effectively a Mickey Mouse path. And Penn State's never getting that again. Penn State's not making it this year, right?
No way. After this loss, no way. I don't see that a path.
They still got to play Ohio State and Indiana. And there's other teams, too. They got to go to Iowa, too. Iowa can beat this team. Do you think Penn State's going to score on Iowa? Our friend Jason Wyrick, he's watching. He says, imagine if Tennessee played Penn State instead in the playoffs. Yeah, Tennessee wouldn't have gotten blown out in the first round if we had played Penn State. It would have been if the game were in State College, I don't know who would win, but hey, Tennessee might win that game, honestly. Especially knowing the Penn State's history with top teams. I could see last year's Tennessee team going in. Nico proved he played well against Penn State, right? So he probably would have played pretty well. But in any case, a disaster for James Franklin. Obviously, UCLA, they're still probably going to win max 3 games, although they looked like they were going to go 0-12. So hey, you got to give them credit for showing up. And we'll see if Nico builds off of that, because hey, he looked good in that game. And obviously I could just sit here and just be a hater on Nico the entire time, but I'll give him credit when he earns it, and he earned it there. So congrats to him and UCLA. And then the second real disaster loss of the week is Arch Manning in Texas, losing on the road to 1-3 Florida. And now Texas has 2 losses. First, just on the Florida side, does this save Billy Napier, right? Because if it feels like Billy Napier, he did the same thing last year, right? Got to a poor start, then pulled off some wins you didn't see coming. He pulled off the Ole Miss and LSU wins, and they kept him. So you get the Texas win here for Florida. Do you think that's going to maybe set the stage for him sticking around, or does he need to get some more wins to save himself?
He still has to face 5 ranked teams. I would say at least 4, because I don't know if Florida State is going to be in the rankings by the last week of regular season. But they're going to face Texas A&M, which desperately needs to win to keep the momentum going, especially they're now on the brink of making finally the college football playoff, and also Georgia. So, yeah, but because after that South Florida loss and those poor performances against LSU and Miami, it felt like, they were going to maybe win Mississippi State, Kentucky, and Florida State. But now with this win over Texas, Florida fans are asking, should we give another chance to Billy Napier? But you point out right, last year was the same exact scenario.
Right, and then you have to ask, how good is Texas? Texas has not beaten a single P4 team this year. Same to go with Penn State. Neither team has beaten a P4 team. Texas, they lost at Ohio State. They beat Free Cupcakes, then lost at Florida. And then the question is, how do we blame this on Arch Manning? Do you blame this on the offensive line? Do you blame this on Steve Sarkisian? I mean, I think it's a combination
Well,
of all three.
one thing I saw on the internet that was, a lot of people are saying, which is kind of true. Last year, the biggest knockout on Steve Sarkisian was, oh, Quinn Ewers had a lot of time, and Quinn Ewers had oh boy, I guess you're gonna see that soon, Nick.
Oh, what happened? I turned it on baseball.
Oh, fumble by the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh,
Eagles fumble the ball. It looks like
uh,
so.
looks like that game was pretty much over at this point.
Yeah, fumble by number 29. So the Eagles are probably gonna lose this game. But back to college football. Yeah, like uh, so maybe Steve Sarkisian kind of, not saying, but like, the critics are like, that's why Quinn Ewers was the starter. That's why he was the quarterback who, really had the playing time and our Arch Manning. It feels like a lot of people wanted Arch Manning to be good because of the Manning name, the Manning dynasty with Eli and Peyton and the dad of all.
Right. I mean, obviously with the legacy, and of course he's at Texas, so that's one of the biggest brands, not the biggest brand in college football. And I'll be honest, I was out here last year. I'm like, I've said all offseason, I thought, if Arch Manning was playing against Ohio State against then Quinn Ewers, maybe there's a different outcome there. Clearly, I was mistaken. And there was clearly a reason why Sark was playing Quinn Ewers, because Ewers was better than Manning. And I didn't believe that, which then begs the question: is Sark messing up with Arch's development? I don't know if like Sark is the best coach for Arch to develop with. And then what's also concerning is Texas's backup went up there for one play on that last drive and completed like a 30-yard bomb. And that was the best play Texas had all day on offense. I'm not so sure that Texas's problems are going to be fixable this season, because the O-line's not playing well. The Arch Manning just seems off sync. He doesn't seem comfortable back there. I mean, overall, it just really is a complete and utter nightmare if you're a Texas fan, especially when you thought that your team was going to be a national title contender. And that really goes into one of the big topics we want to talk about tonight, because, we look at Texas, look at Penn State, you even look at Clemson, right? All three of those teams were in the top 5 preseason. None of them are ranked anymore. There's one combined P4 win between those 3 teams. So who do we think is the biggest fraud out? Texas, Penn State, Clemson? And what do their failures tell us overall about the preseason polls?
Yeah, you made a great point, Nick. I feel like preseason poll was a lot about branding than probably, because like preseason poll, like my biggest knockout in the last few years was discrediting, for example, the runner up. But like we saw runner ups being ranked on the, below top 10, the 15, 20. And I'll say, okay, fine. I know in college football, from one season to the other, a lot of things can change. But though, like a runner-up should be more credited. But also, there's a lot of branding. You said 3 programs in college football that has a lot of brandings, especially Texas and Penn State.
Right, and you look at all these teams too. On paper, they had a lot of talent coming back, a lot of players coming back. Clemson and Penn State had multi-year starters coming back. Texas obviously had a very high quarterback coming in.
But I think this new the college football of the new testimony, this new era, players coming back is not as important as it was 10, 20 years ago, because again, there's something called transfer portal. So if you don't retain your experienced players, you can get new experienced players.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. And I think that's what changes, right? Because, like, for example, like look at Tennessee, right? Like, no one would have guessed at this point in the year that Joey Aguilar would be the leading quarterback in the SEC in passing yards and touchdowns. And I guess it's not true anymore, but in terms of per averages, that's the case. And because, he was not a highly sought after transfer quarterback. Like the transfer portal has completely changed everything because these teams are going to change so wildly from one year to the other. You have no idea what these teams look like anymore. In the past, you would have an idea of how teams would evolve for recruiting classes, but that's not the case. You have no idea. And I think the preseason polls that you see moving forward, you just have to take with a massive grain of salt because you can guess and you can think. And I still think there is a place for continuity and experience together as a squad, as a unit. But at the same time, you have no idea if some of these other teams in the transfer portal decisions are going to magically hit lightning. And it doesn't matter how long, like Craig Klepnick's been at Clemson. If Boo Pribula is better at Missouri, then that's going to show up on the field. So, or Joey Aguilar at Tennessee or wherever. So that's just, I think that's kind of the post-mortem there for all those teams. Obviously, Clemson already has 3 losses. They're not going to the playoffs. Penn State has more losses. Texas probably is getting a 3rd loss this week, I would think. So yeah, I mean, none of these teams we're going to see in the playoffs, which is pretty remarkable to see because you have 2 semifinalists and the ACC champion from last year just all gone. So we're going to see some new faces in the college football playoff this year. Speaking of one guy that we may not, I don't know if we're going to see this guy again on the college sideline at this point, Bill Belichick. Ugh. I mean, Dabo, things have not gone well for Clemson, but at least they went well for him on Saturday. I mean, they went in and dominated North Carolina. I mean, that thing was empty by halftime. You literally had the guy in the shark costume leaving before halftime. And then UNC yesterday issued a joint statement saying that Bill Belichick's not going anywhere. We're not firing him. We're behind him 100%. But the fact you're having to issue a statement like that a month into his tenure, it's a sign that, to me, this isn't going to last very long.
I think, the football media wanted this to work, to Bill Belichick in North Carolina be somewhat good. I wouldn't say they were going to be, on the top 10 or something. They would at least be a 1 or maybe a 2-loss team by now, be ranked, be competitive in the ACC. But that's not the case. That's not the case at all. And, and the worst part is, it feels like Bill Belichick, to put it lightly, doesn't give a F about, the intertwines of college football, recruiting, transfer portal, and something we discussed before, how much of a distraction is his girlfriend?
I think it's a massive distraction. And I think he's trying to find shortcuts, trying to take the easy way out. But in college football, there's really no easy way out. You can't do in the college football like you do in the NFL. It's a completely different form of football. And I have no idea really why North Carolina even tried this in the first place. A 72-year-old man who's never done this is not going to be a good hire, period. I don't care how many Super Bowls he's won. Because winning Super Bowls with Tom Brady is different than building up North Carolina. And I
mean, they try also a 70. Now he's 74, but when they hired, I believe it was like let me see, was 68-year-old Mac Brown, and Mac Brown had success in college football. He won a national title with Texas, and that didn't work out. So what made North Carolina think, oh boy, we had an old coach that had success in college and didn't work out. Let's get a really old coach.
It's like they decided it was the 2020 presidential election.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not okay. No elaboration on that joke. We'll move forward.
but at least in that analogy, both candidates had been on on that stage before. Bill Belichick never coached college before. It wasn't like, Bill Belichick had some experience in the 90s before going to the New England Patriots. No, he did complete. He spent his entire football career in the pros, and should be one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest coach of all time in the NFL. But in college, it seems like I was at least hoping he would be like, let me humble up, let me at least see what this league is about. Or I was expecting, there was a documentary with Nick Saban and how much those two talked. I guess Bill Belichick did not pay attention at all in any tips or anything Nick Saban said about the world of college football coaching.
I mean, Nick Saban could, instruct him point for point on what to do. That doesn't mean Bill Belichick's going to go out and do it. Like, because if you ever see a Nick Saban's recruiting pitches, right? Like, Nick Saban was born to be a college football head coach. Bill Belichick was born to be an NFL head coach. Those are two separate things. They're two of the best of what they've done in their respective things. Doesn't make Nick Saban a great NFL coach. Doesn't make Bill Belichick a great college football coach.
Yeah, and I'll probably North Carolina is gonna finish the year with Saban. I'll say this, I don't see them, fire mid-season, but I mean, and what's funny that when this whole process began, Bill Belichick's staff was worried about the buyout value and wanted to lower it for Bill to be able to go back to the NFL if things worked out. I guess now tables have turned, and now Bill Belichick should be worried, oh, well, my buyout is not that big, so maybe North Carolina can move off me sooner than I think.
100%. And I would assume if North Carolina goes and doing another coaching search, they're going to go for a young guy this time. I imagine that would be a demand from boosters.
Yeah.
But not a good situation for North Carolina. And for Clemson, it just doesn't change. Your season still is a failure, but hey, you got to win. So good for you. Bama got revenge against Vandy. So, kudos to them. But I think the interesting thing here was Diego Pavia getting into a verbal fight with a fan, because apparently the whole deal is that Diego Pavia grabbed his crotch and pointed it at the Alabama fan pregame. So after Bama won, the fan was chirping at him, saying that he was classless. And then Diego told him, quote, "I do what I bleeping want." And then, obviously that set off the Alabama fan, and they're chirping back and forth. And the Bama and the Vandy guys, "That's a kid you're yelling at." Keep in mind, Diego Pavia is 24 years old. And was the one taunting the fans on the field. And here's the thing. I'm always pro players taunting. I want to see energy. I want to see personality on the field. But if you're going to taunt and then you lose, you better be ready to get it served back to you. And
I mean, if you like to trash talk, you have to be able to listen trash talk back when you lose.
And clearly, Diego over there in Nashville, he doesn't handle it too well when you give it back to him afterwards. And you're going to be doing that type of stuff in Tuscaloosa. Keep in mind, he's got to go to Neyland Stadium this year. In a robbery. And all that stuff he said about Tennessee fans. We all know Vol fans do not forget. They do not forgive.
They don't hold back.
No, so you better be ready for that. Because we're ready and we are waiting for Bama. For Bama and Vandy, of course. We get Bama next week, but we'll talk more about the third Saturday in October next week. Other takeaways from this week. I mean, obviously the game of the week last week, Miami beat Florida State. They looked pretty dominant. I know that was a 2022 final in the end, but I mean, that game was really never that close. Also, too, I think the one thing I've noticed too, Miami just appears to have the swag again. That wide receiver CJ Daniels running into the camera after those touchdowns and doing the war chant in the camera. I mean, that's the type of stuff old Miami used to do in the 80s, the 90s. That's when you know Miami is good, when their players are feeling themselves and they're being trash talkers, they're being braggadocious. That is a clear sign that Miami is to be taken seriously.
And if you really analyze their schedule, theoretically, the hardest part is gone because they beat all the ranked teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think finally Miami is going to make it the postseason, the college football. I mean, I remember, I think was like 2017 they came out pretty close and they lost the last week of the regular season.
I believe so, yes. And they have 2 road games in the year, and they have to go up north for both. But they can, but obviously outside of just weird trickeration, they're better than every team they play. The only thing that can stop them is Mario Cristobal. And that's
so far he has not done anything that would suggest me otherwise, but we don't know.
Absolutely. We just gotta keep an eye on that. Also, I'm gonna say this, and this may be a hot take, but I think there's a chance that UVA, Virginia, is this year's SMU. And let me explain what I mean by that. So Virginia got a big overtime win against Louisville in a game that Louisville basically kind of let Virginia win. They had 2 touchdowns off of turnovers. Miller Moss played terribly. But the reason why I say this is, if you look at Virginia's schedule now, right? Like, they upset Florida State. They took out Louisville on the road. So in theory, the rest of the schedule that they have, they don't play another ranked opponent themselves, Virginia. Now, it's not like Virginia is some juggernaut. So do I think they get through the rest of their schedule unscathed? So here's the rest of their schedule, guys. Washington State, at North Carolina, at California, versus Wake Forest, at Duke, and Virginia Tech. Like, Duke is the hardest game left on that schedule by far. But if they can beat Duke, they're going to be favoring the rest of those games. There's a chance Virginia is sitting there at the end of the season 11-1. And they could be in a similar position to where SMU was in last year, with a home win against Florida State. And I don't think there's any universe where they're truly a top 12 team, in terms of actual performance. But there's a chance that, like, if you're looking at the end of the year and they're an 11-1 ACC team, and they're undefeated, because they did lose to NC State on the road. But the thing to note about that is that did not count towards conference standings. So they're still technically undefeated in conference play. So they could go to the ACC championship game. For what? Let's say they run the table and they lose to Miami and they're 11-2. What are the odds that Virginia is able to backdoor into the playoffs like SMU did last year? Like, I could see this being a scenario.
Because the thing is, for example, as of right now, only the coaches poll are ranking Virginia at 24. The AP poll,
they're up to 19 this week.
They're 19. Oh, sorry, I missed that. My bad. Yeah, so I guess they're ranked in the top 20. But do you really think that the committee is going to show any, like, because remember last year they opened the door for SMU and they got destroyed.
Right. And they took a lot of flack for putting an SMU in Indiana over like Alabama and South Carolina and Ole Miss. So I don't know if they make that same mistake twice,
Yeah. For example, Florida State got punished because of Cincinnati. For example, when they let Cincinnati in as a 4 ranked, and they got demolished by Alabama.
Demolished is a strong term. They played pretty strong.
No, they lost.
They never had a chance to win.
They never had a chance to win. And then a few years later, the committee is in the same spot. Like, no, we don't want that again. We don't want to put a team that standing wise deserves more, but is not the better team than the 5th ranked. So they put Alabama. So can they do that again?
Right. I mean, and the committee was proven right? Because Alabama, Michigan in 2023 was proven to be one of the best postseason games in recent memory. It was an incredible game. While Florida State, Michigan that year would have been a blowout.
Yeah.
But anyway, just keep an eye on UVA. I think that's a team to keep an eye on. I guess otherwise, the only other observation I will make is I think Texas Tech clearly has proven themselves to be the best team in the Big 12 by far. I mean, they went down to Houston, destroyed them, and they're undefeated. They're in the top 10 now. Texas Tech is really good. And I think the question is, are they good by just Big 12 standards, or are they actually like good, like could win playoff games good? That's the real question. Just what is Texas Tech's ceiling here? And I don't know how many answers we're going to get in Big 12 play necessarily, because there are good teams over there. I don't know if there's any other great teams in the Big 12.
I mean, they face 2 ranked teams, Arizona State and BYU, but are those 2 good enough to beat them?
Right, and that's the question. So where would Texas Tech be in the SEC? It is the question, because I don't know if there's a great team in the SEC this year. I think there's a lot of really, really good teams. There's no team that's really separated themselves in the SEC, right? Because right now, Ole Miss is the highest ranked team in the SEC. I don't know. I don't think I would bet on Ole Miss being the best team, though.
For example, I don't think there's going to be an undefeated SEC team. I think somewhat down the road, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and even Oklahoma are all going to be at 1-loss teams.
100% are even more than that, potentially.
Yeah. For example, I can see Oklahoma losing to Texas this week. Texas needed to show like some sort of a response after losing to Florida. Texas A&M, they're going to go to Baton Rouge. So, and even
comes to Knoxville too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, I'm talking about Texas A&M.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying for them as well. And Ole Miss, I know they go to Georgia too down the road as well. So, I mean, lots of football left to be played. But I think we're in for a very entertaining couple of weeks of football here. Also, just I guess a wild card team to watch here, Cincinnati. They had pulled off an upset over Iowa State this past week, 38-30. This was coming off the upset they pulled the week before at Kansas. So, their offense is looking really good. Their only loss is 3 points to Nebraska in the season opener and what was basically a road game. I don't think they're going to win the Big 12, but it feels like that if the Big 12 is going to have another shock winner that no one saw coming, like last year of Arizona State, Cincinnati could fit that bill. So just keep an eye on the Bearcats.
Yeah, and I think Cincinnati, for example, should have been ranked. Maybe ahead of Florida State. I don't know.
Well, the thing definitely keeping Florida State in is that win they had over Alabama. And Alabama has looked really, really good since. Like, if Alabama didn't lose opening week, there would be an argument for Bama being number 1 right now. If you erased the memory of Bama losing to Florida State, Bama has looked better than basically everyone else since then, in my opinion.
And maybe Bama fans should be happy about that, because they're kind of evolving every week, but they are not being kind of looked at as the top dog, so they can be sneak in and then surprise everyone.
100%, right? Because I think there was this sense after the Florida State loss, Bama's incredibly vulnerable. I don't know if I feel like that at this point, right? And of course, obviously, we have them next week, and what's going to be a massive showdown.
I think Alabama Tennessee is going to be a playoff game. Whoever wins are still alive in the postseason. Whoever loses, I don't see they're going to get in.
Yeah, because basically whoever loses will have to win out. It'll be kind of like what last year was in Knoxville, just down in Tuscaloosa at night, which I don't like. But we'll deal with that next week. We have a game this week we should focus on. All right. Underrated games for the week. I think there's a couple of ones, Gus. Start.
I have mine. Can go first?
Yeah, so I picked like 4.
My one, Friday night down in Denton, Texas. I think this game's gonna be massive for the G5 spot.
Oh, 100.
North Texas hosting the number 24 ranked South Florida.
Yeah, and North Texas is undefeated, and they've looked really good so far. It's a big American Conference game. To me, it feels like whoever wins the American Conference is going to be the G5 spot. You still have undefeated Navy, undefeated North Texas. Of course, South Florida has a massive win at Florida. You have Tulane with a couple of P4 wins against Duke and Northwestern. Now, the only wild card to that is you have an undefeated UNLV over in the Mountain West. But I will say this. I think a one-loss American team would probably deserve to be over an undefeated UNLV. Because I don't think the Mountain West is very good. Like, Boise State has fallen off this year. Of course, they got beaten the other day by Notre Dame by 3 touchdowns. And, of course, South Florida beat Boise State 34-7 head-to-head. And outside of that, I mean, the second best team right now in the Mountain West is Fresno State. And they're 4-1. They're doing pretty well. But I just don't. I think the American Conference is better than the Mountain West this year. And right now, I would venture to say whoever wins the American Championship game should be the champion, should be the G5 team.
Yeah, I think there's a great argument there. But also, don't forget there's, for example, Old Dominion down in the Sun Belt too, with only one loss, and they
that was a very competitive loss too. They only lost by 13 at Indiana.
Yeah, and they beat a G4 team, Virginia Tech.
Yeah, by a lot. Got their coach fired.
So maybe Old Dominion should be in the conversation. Maybe as a really wild card.
Yeah, and I just think the thing that's going to hurt perhaps Old Dominion and UNLV is I think their conferences, the Sun Belt and the Mountain West, are not as good as the American Conference. Also, Memphis, we forgot to put in Memphis as well, who has a win over Arkansas, and I believe they're still undefeated as well. So there's several teams in there. And, for these teams, right, like it's precarious, right? Like every single week is a chance for your dreams to blow up of making the playoffs. So, keep in mind in 2 weeks, we've got South Florida at Memphis. That's going to be a massive one, too. Right now, that would be a top 25 matchup. So there's some massive football coming up, especially in the American Conference. And that's, definitely this week with North Texas and South Florida. Of course, Tulane is going to have something to say about this. I mean, there's like 5 teams that could win it. And Navy too. I mean, and because the thing that will interest me is if Navy wins the conference title game, do they still play Army-Navy before the playoff? Because you would have Army-Navy the week before the playoffs. And, of course, Navy gets to play Notre Dame, too.
And, ironically, for Navy, this game at least is after the Selection Sunday. So they can play with knowing. And do you put your starters then or not?
It's Army-Navy. You put your starters in. Like, it's Army-Navy. You have to play everyone. Right? Because, like, let's be real. Navy is not going to win the national championship. So, and the Army game is probably bigger to them than being the 12 seed and going to play a playoff game.
Yeah, I guess, having that, defense rivalry or war rivalry now with this new name of a secretary, maybe counts it more. But then do you then play just for, the experience of the playoffs? Because you playing your best players and the other team resting in football can make a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely. But keep in mind, like they would be playing basically 3 straight weekends at this point, right? Because you play the last weekend of the regular season, then you would play the weekend after in the American title game, then you're playing the weekend after that in Army Navy, then after that, and keep in mind Navy's last. So like here's the potential run Navy has to be on starting November 1st. Navy goes to North Texas, then they go to Notre Dame, then they get South Florida, then they go to Memphis, the American Championship game potentially if they survive all of that. And if you win that and make the playoffs, then you have the Army game the week after the conference title game, and then potentially a playoff game. I don't see any way Navy is making it through all that.
Yeah, it's a very probable run.
Yeah.
It will be an incredible run, but very probable.
It would be crazy. They literally have a gauntlet to finish the season. So I don't know. If I had to pick, it feels like to me Memphis is still the best out of all of them. But man, I think there's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a fight, and definitely South Florida and North Texas tomorrow is definitely going to be one of those fights. For me, some of the big games, I think Michigan USC. I think this is huge, especially for Lincoln Riley. He's got to prove that he can beat some of these big Big Ten teams because he really blew his chance a few weeks ago at Illinois. If he doesn't start pulling some of these off, he's probably going to get ran off from USC. Also big for Notre Dame as well, because for Notre Dame, they don't have any more ranked teams in their schedule. They need USC to be really good and be ranked. So that's a huge one for both USC and Notre Dame. BYU and Arizona, number 18. Arizona only has 1 loss so far. Potentially a chance for them to pull off an upset and maybe make some noise. And then 21 Arizona State, Utah. This feels like an elimination game of sorts. Both teams have 1 loss. Now, Arizona State's loss is non-conference. But, yeah, this one's massive, I think, for both. Because especially with how crowded the Big 12 is going to get, if you're Utah, you can't take a second loss.
No, definitely can't.
100%. I guess, we've come to upset alert of the week. And for me, I honestly am going to take, and this may be a little bit of a shocker, I'm going with South Carolina on the road over LSU. I think LSU has been exposed. And to me, this feels like a game where South Carolina could show some of that potential that we thought they had coming into the year. I could see this turning into a negative atmosphere against LSU in their own stadium. Give me the Gamecocks.
And for Shane Beamer, it's important because, so far it's going to be it has been a really disappointing season for the Gamecocks. For me, my upset alert, give me Virginia Tech over Georgia Tech in Atlanta.
Ooh. Virginia Tech has played better since they fired Brent Pry. I think Georgia Tech's pretty good. Now, granted, they almost lost to Wake Forest a few weeks ago, so could be an interesting one there. All right. Before we get into the top 5, let's talk about the Vols here. Of course, big one this week against Arkansas. This is a revenge game. We lost to them last year at Fayetteville. Nico ran out of bounds without the time. And that loss last year cost us a chance to be in Atlanta. Like, if we had just won that game and taken care of business, even with the loss to Georgia, we would have gone to Atlanta to play Texas. So, it's definitely a revenge game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. I mean, they have revenge on their minds.
100%. Of course, we're going to be playing a new coach with Bobby Petrino in his debut as the interim. Of course, his second stint.
And Nick, I want to ask you something about that. A lot of people connected to Arkansas football saying this was more like a takeover, more like a coup d'etat of Bobby Petrino. Do you agree?
I would agree with that. Like, from the moment they hired him, it felt like it was a backdoor ploy to get him back to the coach. Because let's be real, Arkansas, since they had to fire Bobby Petrino, has sucked. Like, they had some really good years for Petrino back in the late 2010s, 2020, late 2000s, 2010s. Jason's telling me that Aaron has a trade offer for me. Okay. I'll have to deal with that here post show. But back on um, back on this game, from the moment that, he was great in the late 2000s, early 2010s, and of course you had the motorcycle incident, and of course he had to be fired from that, and he's kind of bounced around. He found some success in the second stint with Louisville, primarily because of Lamar Jackson. And what's really interesting about this is when he took over for Sam Pittman 2 weeks ago, he came in and fired the defensive staff. And you don't normally see interim coaches just come in and wipe out the defensive staff like that. So it's clear that he is going all in. And this is what got me at least a little nervous about this game, because Bobby Petrino, he has waited for 14 years to get back on an SEC head coach front. This is like a Games of Thrones type deal, right? Like you get knocked off the throne, you go wallow in the pits and the prisons, and you have to crawl through all of Westeros. And he's finally climbed back onto the Iron Throne that is Arkansas football. Well, now, I mean, it's not like it's the Iron Throne; it's more like one of the side castles in the land of Westeros. But hey, Jason, surprise guest.
Listen, I could not in good faith listen to you guys talk about Bobby Petrino without coming on, crashing the podcast, and telling you how much he sucks.
Right. Of course,
oh, really?
And a knowledge of this being at Louisville. And, Gus was asking me about the coup d'etat. And to me, it feels like it's like a king getting knocked off his throne, and he's walled around, and now he's getting back onto that throne, and he's going to go all out to try to keep it in Arkansas,
This dude had okay, so he left Louisville, went to the Falcons, right? And then he quit on the Falcons, went to Arkansas, had the incident on the bike, then he went back to Louisville. He was crap at Louisville, and we still managed to win the Heisman and almost make the playoffs despite Bobby Petrino. And then when Lamar went pro, we went 2-10. So we went from being a playoff contender with Lamar to going 2-10 literally overnight because Bobby Petrino was a terrible coach. And then he went to Missouri State and didn't do very well at Missouri State. And then he went to A&M, I think, as their OC. So he's not any good. And he took this job knowing that the guy that they just fired was going to be fired, knowing that he would get a chance as an interim and maybe be able to parlay that into another head coaching job. But he's never going to be a head coach again, ever. He's not good. The game's passed him by. He's reckless in his personal life also, obviously. He's just not worth it for any of these programs.
Yeah, and when I think about this game, and we talk about the recklessness, and I guess just because I have the memories, right, of being a kid watching those Arkansas teams like Ryan Mallett, and those teams were really good, and they messed Tennessee up. We went over to Arkansas in 2011, lost 49-7 to those guys. So and I guess that's in the back of my head when I think of Petrino at Arkansas, I think of some really good football teams. But I'm trying to remind myself that this Arkansas team's nothing like that, right? Because Arkansas is not good this year. They lost to Memphis. They got blown up by Notre Dame. And we don't know how this team is going to respond, coming off about, with all these changes, with the whole defensive staff fired, and they're going to have to go on the road to a hostile environment. And Nealon, we don't know how they're going to respond to all this.
I don't expect much. They'll have a new coach, sort of bounce in their game, but I'm not expecting Tennessee to be in a close game. I think this is going to be somewhere in between Syracuse and Mississippi State. I don't think it'll be quite the statement that Syracuse was, but it'll be close.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a test to see how far defenses come in the bye week. Now, we do have Davion Hobbs coming back off an injury. Jamar McCoy is not quite ready for this week, although I think he'll be ready for next week, which is when we are really going to need him.
Right. And can I say something real quick? Vol fans that are complaining about Jermod McCoy not playing, this dude got hurt literally one pregnancy ago, one human pregnancy ago. And that's 9 months for the uneducated among you. And most normal people take 15 months to heal from this. And you're asking this dude to go all out in the SEC as a corner on a torn ACL 9 months later. Stop it. If he
Right.
plays at all this season, it will be impressive. Do I think he will? Yes. Do I think it'll be soon? Probably not. I think he's probably at least another month out. It'll be November probably before he plays, but I think he'll play at the back end of the season. And I also think that's going to help his draft stock too. If he sits out the season and he goes back healthy and tears up the combine, he'll be fine. But that really puts a big pressure on the combine if you do that. And I don't think that's something he wants to do. I think he'd rather just get up and play again rather than put all of his eggs into that basket. But that's just my opinion.
Right. And of course, obviously, in the meantime, until he comes back, right? Like, I think we're going to see just how far, both obviously Colton Hood, who's played very well in the first part of the season, had a pick 6 against Mississippi State, and Ty Redmond, how far he's coming. I thought Redmond, he played a lot better in Starkville than he did the previous SEC game against Georgia. So I'm curious to see what he looks like with 2 more weeks of practice as a starting corner in this game because, Taven Green is a really good quarterback. He's the best player that Arkansas has by far. The supporting cast is nowhere near as good. They lost guys like Isaac Tesla, who's now it seems like all he does is catch touchdowns for the Detroit Lions. That's all it seems like he does. And they lost that really good running back they had from last year as well. But Taven Green still does give me at least a little bit of concern, especially with the way our defense has looked throughout the season so far. But otherwise, I think from a defensive standpoint, from there, Arkansas's defense is not good at all. Like, they've been just ran through completely. Like, we should be able to run at will in this game, and Joey should be able to cook off of the play action. Chris Brazzell will do what he's going to do. I think it'll be I think we will score. We've scored in 40 every single game this year. I think this will be no exception, and we should get it done.
Agreed. I don't think it'll be particularly close, but I don't think it'll be just a complete blowout either. Arkansas is not good, but they're not terrible. So,
right.
But boys, thanks for not getting too mad at me for crashing the pod again.
Anytime.
Good to see you guys.
Anytime.
Anytime.
I'll check that trade offer too at some point with Aaron. That's in our dynasty league. Yeah, but as I said though, I think the Vols should win here easily. I think Heupel will remind these guys, hey, you didn't take them seriously last year and you lost. So come out this year, get it done, and I trust them to come out and get it done.
Yeah, give me Tennessee too.
Yeah, get this done, and
let me see the
line. I think it's like it was 13.5 to begin the week. I don't know where it's at now.
I'll check it. It's minus 11.5. I'll bet the over.
A lot of money's coming on Arkansas then. So
I'll bet the over.
Yeah. People think about the Petrino bounce. So we'll see what happens. All right, the 5 games to pick here. First, the Deep South's oldest rivalry, number 10 Georgia going to Auburn, a night game. This feels like a do or die for Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze has got to find a way to pull off this upset because otherwise it's about to just spiral out of control for him down on the plains. Can Auburn pull off this upset at home against Georgia?
And they still did not win an SEC game. So if they win, it's going to be their first SEC game and probably it's going to probably be the only big win because I don't see them beating Alabama, even if they beat Vandy, which is ranked. So give me Auburn.
Ooh, you're going with Auburn with the upset here. And I'll say this. I think Auburn has a shot against Bama. Because the thing about this, no matter how good Alabama is and how bad Auburn is, anytime Bama goes to Auburn, it's always a tight game, a weird game where Auburn pulls off the upset. And Jordan Hare is a scary place to go play if you're Georgia or Alabama. And I think this will be a tight game. This will be a close game. Auburn has a really good defense. The problem is Auburn has no offensive line. They just don't have an offensive line. I think Georgia will exploit that, and I think Georgia will find a way to escape with a win. Red River rivalry. I can't believe this is not the game of the week. I would have guessed that preseason, but number 6 Oklahoma versus unranked Texas. Can Texas recover from that. And is John Mateer going to play for Oklahoma? That's, I think, the big question here. Like, because he got hurt a few weeks ago, and he's questionable for the game.
ABC's mad as hell about Texas losing to Florida because if they beat them, it would have been a top 10 showdown. But now it's a unranked team against the number 6 team, and I'm going with Texas.
I mean, Oklahoma, Texas is always a big draw. And for me, when it comes to, and right now, Mateer is probable for this game, according to Matt Zenitz. So, assuming Mateer plays, I'm going to take OU because I just think OU, if Florida could put up 29 in Texas, I think OU, it just has a much better offense. And the real difference in this game is R. Mason Thomas and the Oklahoma defensive front is going to go after Arch Manning. Like, Texas O-line is not good at all. They've been totally owned by both Ohio State and Florida. Oklahoma has a better front line than Florida does, and I think Oklahoma's in the same realm as Ohio State in terms of front seven. I think Oklahoma will win this one.
Oh yeah, I'm going with Texas. I'm going with a surprise.
So you're going with the 2 upsets. I'm going with the favorites there. All right. A Big Ten, the big noon game in Champaign. Number 1 Ohio State traveling to number 17 Illinois. Does the Fighting Illini have any chance in this game?
No, give me Ohio State.
I agree. Ohio State's just a lot better. I think the thing about this Ohio State team is their defense is better this year. Somehow their defense got better. Their offense is still, I think, kind of working towards where they were. I mean, they just lost a lot of the offense. That defense under Matt Patricia is really good. This one's really fascinating to me. Number 8 Alabama at number 14 Missouri, a noon kick. Missouri's undefeated. Big one in Columbia. Well, who do we have here?
It's going to be a close game, but give me Alabama.
Man, the thing, Bama's run defense is not good. Part of me wants to take Missouri. I'm taking Missouri. This is the upset here. Bama's not been good on the road outside of Georgia. Give me Missouri in the upset. All right, in the game of the week in Eugene, Oregon, number 7 Indiana at number 3 Oregon. Can the Hoosiers prove themselves as legitimate contenders?
No, give me Indiana.
Ooh, you are giving the Hoosiers. You're taking the Hoosiers. Honestly, I think Indiana's going to hang with Oregon. I really do. But I think Oregon's going to win. But I think this Indiana team is better than the team from last year. Just one quick college note. The transfer portal rules have changed per the NCAA. So instead of there being 2 transfer portal windows, you're now just going to have the one that lasts for about 2 weeks in January. So no more spring transfer portal. So you're not going to have another Nico spring practice situation, which I think is absolutely the right call. It was creating the situation where teams did not want to show their spring games because they were scared that other teams were going to watch the spring games and steal their players.
Yeah, now we can have some sort of a normalcy again. That's something we talked about in this podcast time and time again. Even in the NFL, there's the free agents period. So why in college football there was all season long free agency? No, there's got to be some limit, and the governing body, rightfully so, impose that.
100%. I agree with that. Okay, real quick, just want to shout out Baylor for beating Macaulay with big high school rivalry game here. And the big reason I want to bring this up, a name to watch for Gus, David Gabriel Georges. He is going to be the number 1 running back in the class of 2027 next year. This guy looks like Derrick Henry did in high school. He ran for over 300 yards in this game. He could be a superstar in the NFL in the 2030s. Just keep that name in your back of your mind, David Gabriel Georges. All right, the NFL, Week 5, some of the biggest takeaways from last week, Gus.
Yeah, let's start with your Tennessee Titans, which surprised both of us.
Yeah, I honestly I didn't think we were going to win a game this year. So the fact that we won a game is pretty big, and then the manner, like, and this really was more about the Arizona Cardinals blowing this game. Arizona, Jonathan Gannon will probably get fired. I mean, that's just what's going to happen here. And this isn't Jonathan Gannon's fault that they lost this game, but man, like Amari DiMarcado, man, what is it going to take for these football players to learn you have got to cross the plane? Like, cross the plan before you drop the ball.
Yeah, at some point, those players, like, why do you tend to relax? Like, focus until you cross the line. Then you can go to the floor, throw the ball away, do whatever you want, but cross the line.
Yeah. 100%. And of course, the Titans got lucky there, and then the Titans got lucky on it. So Cam Moore throws an interception, the defensive back fumbles it,
and I think when it happened to the Colts also lost the game. So that kind of play really changed the momentum.
100%, because the Colts were going to take the lead against the Rams in that situation, and the Cardinals would have put this game away, but they just did not. Just a bad loss for Arizona, bad loss for Kyler Murray. It feels like Kyler Murray is going to get replaced within a year or two in Arizona. It feels like where this is trending, because it just ain't working. He isn't elite. He isn't elevating Arizona. And that's just kind of what happens. They didn't score a single point in the second half against the Titans. But I'm just glad not to go 0-17. So I'll take that as a win. Also, the Ravens without Lamar Jackson are lost puppies. They're horrible. I mean, the Ravens and the Bengals both are completely lost without their quarterbacks. It's crazy. The Bengals, obviously, they're going out and they're signing Joe Flacco. I don't know how much of a fix that's going to be. I mean, Flacco will be better than Jake Browning once he learns the offense, but
the question is, why Cleveland made that trade with a divisional rival?
Well, they're not going to play Joe Flacco because they got Dalen Gabriel, and of course they got Shador. And I'm sure the Bengals were desperate, and they gave him some draft picks for it. So, if you're Cleveland, why not? Because if you're Cleveland, why would anyone trade you for Joe Flacco?
Yeah, that's true. It's an opportunity that you didn't saw it come, because Joe Flacco is going to be a bridge quarterback for Dylan Gabriel or Sanders, and if they got value,
right? Because they got a 6th round draft pick, and so basically the Bengals have traded. So the Browns sent a 2026 6th round pick, and they got a 5th round pick. So they got a better draft pick for next year in the 5th round. So, I mean, you got something out of it. So definitely fascinating. Also, the Eagles, too, now losing 2 straight after starting undefeated. The offense, it just doesn't seem like it has the same rhythm. But I will say this when it comes to the Eagles. They also, early last season, also had struggles and then got it together. So maybe they're just a slow burn team.
If I'm not mistaken, at this point of last season, if I'm not mistaken, they were also 4-2.
Right.
Let me check, but I believe they were 4-2 at this point. So last year, they beat the Packers, lost to the Falcons, 1-1, 2-1, 2-1, 2-2, 2-2, 3-2, 4-2. They're exactly like they were last year, 4-2.
Yeah. So I think the Eagles will get it together. Of course, tonight was really bad with the Giants, but I think they'll get it together. The Jaguars, I think, announced themselves as a serious contender in the AFC South with their win over the Chiefs. The Chiefs, they're struggling right now. I don't think their receiving targets are up to what we're used to for KC. And the defense is not playing very well either. So it's just wild to see. Also, the Patriots, too. What a win for them on the road in the whiteout. Can we say that, the whiteout is dead? Penn State loses at home to Oregon. Buffalo loses at home to New England.
It's like Dan Lannon said. They can do any color out, whiteout, whatever. It doesn't change what the outcome on the field. It doesn't affect at all.
Yes.
There's nothing that changed the environment of that it looks like. And also, Mike Vabro, I mean, 3-2, he's really getting together. Winning 2 straight. I mean, the only team that, and also it was funny, both the like they are the only, they're undefeated on the road.
Yeah, imagine an NFL team firing him. I couldn't imagine that at all.
I guess there was a team down in Nashville, Tennessee that did that. I don't know. I might be mistaken.
Yeah, and they totally went and hired a much better coach afterwards. Totally, who just got his 4th win in 2 years. Yes, 4 wins now, Brian Callahan, and basically this one was gifted to him. So congratulations. But I mean, shout out to Cam Ward though. I mean, seriously, the last drive. I mean, that was a really clutch throw he made. Hopefully that gets him going. Also, before you get into picks, just real quick, they just announced the halftime show, Bad Bunny, for the Super Bowl. What do you think about that one? It's been a very controversial pick here in America, Gus.
I in Brazil maybe a little bit, but if I was the NFL, why do Bad Bunny and also another artist? I saw, if I'm not mistaken, there were halftime shows where there were 2 leading artists.
Right, like the Shakira and Jennifer Lopez show.
Yeah, why don't do Bad Bunny and Pitbull, baby?
That would make a lot more sense because the American audience knows Pitbull a lot better. But I mean, Bad Bunny is one of the most streamed artists in the entire world. But for the American audience, he isn't. And I get that the NFL is more a global event, and then there's
and also I get it that the Super Bowl is going to be down in Florida, which is more Latino.
Yeah, but the ironic part is Bad Bunny said he wasn't because of ICE and the political situation, but then he's going to come back and do the Super Bowl, and it's just like, there's obviously a certain group of the NFL audience that just doesn't like him because of that, and
do you know what they do? Turn off the TV on halftime. Done deal. Go eat, go enjoy, and then turn it on again when the game back. All problems solved.
But we all know that everyone complaining is going to watch, because how else are they going to complain about it and say, oh, that was the worst halftime show I ever watched? But you watched it. And that's what the league cares about. You watched it. So if you want to make a point to the NFL, turn it off, don't watch it.
Yep.
Because I will certainly watch unfold. It's like I don't know any Bad Bunny music. Like there's a million artists I'd rather want at the Super Bowl than Bad Bunny. But
like love watching or hate watching.
Yeah,
the ratings are.
I'm sure he's going to chock full that thing with a bunch of guest artists, and he has to, right? Because otherwise, I'm just going to be serious. Like I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The only mistake I think the NFL made, they should have put, Bad Bunny along with someone else that has more connectivity with the American audience, that has more like a Latino flow, like Pitbull, Jennifer Lopez,
Yeah, so we will certainly see what happens with that one. All right. Picking the games for the remainder of the week, of course, the Giants already beat the Eagles. So moving on to Sunday, we have the NFL London games. Your winless New York Jets, the last winless team in the league, which shocks me. I thought the Titans would be, versus the 3-2 Broncos.
It's funny. That loss down in Tampa Bay that I watch it in person keeps getting more and more painful, because Jets fans are asking, did we blew it the best chance of winning a game this season? Because they had that game on their hands and, lost in the last second. But give me the Broncos.
I agree with the Broncos as well. I mean, that defense, they're getting themselves together. I'm still not sold on Bo Nix, but they're getting themselves together. All right. 1 p.m., the Arizona Cardinals, coming off one of the most embarrassing losses in NFL history, go into Indianapolis.
Oh, Colts, no doubt about it.
Colts, easy. The Colts would be the number 1 seed right now, which is crazy to say. All right. The 3-2 Chargers heading to the 1-4 Dolphins.
Chargers.
I'm going to go Dolphins. This is a West Coast team going to the East Coast. And the Chargers are down their 2 big running backs. And Miami is super soft, but they're not going to be able to really exploit that. So give me the Dolphins. The 3-2 Patriots at the 1-4 Saints.
Oh, Patriots. They're undefeated on the road, as I pointed out.
I'll go Patriots as well. Saints are not playing. The Saints are not playing bad, though. I will give them that.
Yeah. And they're only in New England's only favored by -3.5.
Mm-hmm. The 1-4 Browns at the 3-1 Steelers.
Steelers.
Yeah, I'll take the Steelers as well. The 2-1 Dallas Cowboys versus the 2-3 Carolina Panthers.
Which is undefeated at home, but I think the Cowboys are gonna knock that down. Give me Cowboys.
Yep, I'll take the Cowboys as well. Wow, big one here. The 3-2 Seahawks at the 4-1 Jaguars.
Road Seahawks undefeated on the road versus Jaguars undefeated at home after a big win over the Chiefs and Mahomes. Give me the Jaguars.
I'm going to go Seahawks. I like the Seahawks pull this off. They've had an extra day of rest. The 3-2 Rams at the 1-4 Ravens. No Lamar Jackson, probably.
Rams.
Yeah, Rams, man. What a lost season for Baltimore. And the Chicago Cubs are starting to put it on the Milwaukee Brewers. It's now 6-0. The Cubs just hit another home run, Michael Busch. So it looks like we're going to have a game 5 of Milwaukee. 425 here. We have the 2-3 Cincinnati Bengals at the 2-1 Green Bay Packers.
Bengals with Joe Flacco.
No way. Joe Flacco's had 2 days to learn the playbook.
I mean, UCLA interim head coach had 2 days too.
That's a good point. I don't know. I think the Packers take care of business, though. Wow, this is the game of the. Oh, go ahead.
You forgot your team.
Oh yeah, let's go back. We got the 1-4 Titans versus the 1-4 Raiders. For some reason, that was on the different. We're in here.
Because because you put it as your team.
Correct. Yes, and I forgot to go back up there to it.
Give me the Titans.
I'm gonna go. Both teams are really bad. Frankly, last week did feel like a bit of a fluke. You know what, though? This is probably the only time that I can pick the Titans to win this year, so I'm going to. Just sentimentally, because why not? You know, why not? I probably won't pick them again the rest of the year, but I'll pick them there. Game of the week here, I would say. The 49ers at 4-1 at the Buccaneers at 4-1.
Buccaneers.
I agree. Give me the Buccaneers.
I wish they had that kicking off time when I watched the game Tampa instead of the 1 p.m. I mean, it would be less miserable. And now in October, it will be way cooler.
Oh, yeah.
Because that day I watched it was – go ahead.
And also, too, I think for the Niners, probably Mac Jones starting again this week with Brock Purdy recovering from injury. Although, arguably, Mac Jones is playing just as well, if not better.
Which just shows how Kyle Shanahan, it's a magician of, quarterback producing.
Yeah. All right. Sunday night game, the 4-1 Lions going to the 2-3 Chiefs. This feels like backs against the wall for KC here.
Oh, it's a do or die game for KC. They need to show that they are a viable team because right now they're, especially after that, Monday night loss in Jacksonville. Give me the Chiefs.
It feels like we're starting to see the end of the dynasty. Give me the Lions. Give me the Lions. All right, we have 2 Monday night games. So first we got the 4-1 Bills going to the 2-2 Atlanta Falcons.
Bills.
I agree. Give me the Bills as well. And then we have the 2-2 Bears versus the 3-2 Commanders. The last
Washington.
game. I'll take Washington as well. Because remember, that game ended on a Hail Mary last year. So, okay. Really quickly, the Las Vegas Aces, I believe, are cruising in the WNBA Finals. They are up 3-0 in that series, and they will probably finish them off tomorrow night at 8 p.m. So, only if Caitlin Clark and the half of the Indiana Fever didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
We could have
But
had
what a run. I mean, definitely next season going to be way more, the expectations are going to be way higher with, the team coming back and having Caitlin Clark back.
Please protect her. All right.
Please.
All right. Also, LeBron being injured. And there was a rumor earlier that he had retired, but I mean that's not true.
I mean, I hate what I know it was a very good idea in terms of marketing, but I would have been mad. And there's even a fan suing LeBron for misleading advertising because he bought a ticket thinking it was going to be LeBron's last season or like a retirement tour, but it was all a publicity stunt. I didn't like that.
Right. Of course, the preseason NBA here, as we're getting into preseason, they're tapping Oklahoma City to repeat, which I will once again remind is an illegitimate championship. The NBA robbed the Indiana Pacers in Game 4. And they're tapping Nikola Jokic as preseason MVP.
I mean, refereeing not only in the NBA but I think throughout go ahead with NASCAR to finish off American, but I guess you're because the issue with the NBA Finals was refereeing, right?
Yes.
Though that's something that I cannot listen anything anymore about refereeing, and I'll go that after you finish NASCAR.
There. We'll let that one go. Also, Eric Spoelstra is going to be the new Team USA head basketball coach. So
this well deserved.
Absolutely. And of course, that'll be a big one too, because the next Summer Olympics are here in the U.S. and Los Angeles. That'll be a big one for them. And of course, the U.S. got taken to the brink last time with France, and I know Victor Wembanyama is going to look to try to assert himself here in the States. And then, of course, last but not least, NASCAR playoffs. Shane Van Gisbergen won his 5th straight road course race. It was an unreal run, a completely insane run for Shane Van Gisbergen. However, the real drama came down between Ross Chastain and Joey Logano for the last playoff transfer spot. Joey Logano was able to advance because Ross Chastain got passed by several cars, including Denny Hamlin. Ross Chastain tried to wreck Denny Hamlin on the last corner to make it, but just couldn't do it. So Joey Logano, the defending champion, is trying to repeat again. Of course, I've obviously ranted about how stupid the playoff system is, but hey, that's neither here or there at this point. They're going to Las Vegas this week. The final 8 include Denny Hamlin. So it's Denny Hamlin, Riley Blaney, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, Chase Briscoe, and Joey Logano. If I had to pick my final 4, the 4 drivers that I would like to see in the final 4, because they're most deserving, I would like to see Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, and William Byron. I think those are William Byron and or Chase Briscoe. I think those are 4 of the 5 of the most deserving drivers this year. And obviously, whatever happens in Phoenix happens for the championship. But because if we had a full season point standings, Christopher Bell would be leading by about 50 points. So, in any case, that is the NASCAR update. Gus, what is going on in Brazil? And it sounds like there's some officiating complaints, shenanigans down there.
A lot. I cannot even listen anymore because what happened was on Sunday was a big derby match between Palmeiras and Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo was up by 2-0. And then in the second half, there was a controversial call that, I probably can find on Instagram if you want to see it. But I mean, let me see if I can find it. Probably there's in the Sao Paulo Instagram page, and it's everywhere because that's the most definitely talked play of the week. Because I found it. Let me send it to you and you can analyze it. Because what happened was that the referee just ignored this play. So I'm sending to you right now on Instagram. Did you see it? Did you?
Let's see. All right, let me pull this up. All right, I'm getting it now. So I'm gonna watch it. Well, I think it should be a foul on
number 14, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Well, the foul on whoever the guy in green is.
No. If you don't think the guy on the green one hit the number 14 on the
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like number 14 got hit by the guy in the tackle because he totally missed. He never hit the ball. He hit him, so that should be a foul.
Yeah, and that's what everybody agrees, but not Ramon Abachabel, the referee, who today had his audio with the VAR booth exposed, and he just said that the guy on the green tripped and fell and unintentionally hit number 14, which for his understanding wasn't penalty. Everybody say, come on, but unintentionally or intentionally, you'll hit the player, which therefore is a penalty. So, there's a lot of complaining on the São Paulo side. Flamengo also got involved because Flamengo lost to Bahia and is now second place behind, guess what? Palmeiras. And sadly, this play overshadowed a big comeback because I was saying Palmeiras was down by 2-0 against São Paulo and then overcome and came back to win 3-2 on the road. So now Palmeiras is in first place, but the controversy of the week is this play that I just showed to you. People saying that Ramon Abachabel should be suspended, should be even banned of referee. I think this play is an opportunity for more standards towards the communication between the referee on the field and the VAR. Because if everybody watching on TV could see there is a play that at least controversial, why the referee ignores the technology which would have helped him see the play? That's what makes me mad about it. If it wasn't
you've seen like the ACC football, right? With how they're doing, like you can watch them go through the process of doing replays, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know why more sports leagues clearly need to adopt that.
Yeah. And what makes me mad is okay, if it was 10 years ago, everybody would be like, oh, Ramon Bachabel probably didn't saw the play properly. It was a very fast. Okay, we would understand. But now everybody's mad because you had the technology. To see it again. You had people in the booth that saw the play, and you had the opportunity to also see the play again on the VAR monitor. And not only you dismiss the probable call and analysis from the VAR booth, from the VAR, booth upstairs, you didn't even bother to ask about the play. He was just like, oh, he tripped and fell, for me, no penalty. I think, and also, this happens in the Paulista Cup, the tournament that Broncos playing. They introduced what the NFL is very common, the challenge replay. I want to see that maybe expanded even to the big leagues in Brazil. I think coaches should be allowed to have a challenging on a play.
It kind of surprises me that the biggest league wouldn't if you have other leagues in Brazil that do.
Yeah, they tested out at the Paulista Cup because Paulista Cup don't have a full VAR. So they have a called VFS, Football Video System, which is basically they only see the cameras that the broadcasting of the game has it, not like a VAR, VAR cameras, which, are different from the broadcasting ones. So they did this challenge one, so the people on the field can question it, and the referee will say, "Okay, let me check out the video from the broadcasting, and then I can make a decision." So
that's the way of the future for sure.
Yeah, I think they should be thinking about it, because probably Abel Ferreira, Hernan Crespo, São Paulo head coach, would have probably challenged, and then. But what's even funnier is that if that happened, I would have questioned if Ramon Abachebel would have overturned his call or not, because he was so convicted that this play was a penalty that it kind of scares me, and but I'm just sad in my side, and I think with it too, when all the discussion, all the debates resumes to, oh, is this a conspiracy to take the title away from my team to give to another team? The referees are against my team, are pro another team. I hate that kind of sports argument.
Yeah, because it takes away from the performances on the field, and it happens all the time, especially from fans that that lose games. And I'm guilty of this, right? Like I still complain about jokingly how I don't recognize the 2021 Purdue result against the Music City.
Yeah,
like, and I'm like, oh, I don't recognize that result. Now, realistically, really, what I should be doing is saying we shouldn't have given up 48 points in regulation. Or we wouldn't have been in that situation to begin with, where a call like that could change the outcome of the game.
But it's infuriating when the referee becomes a protagonist on sports discussion, because you want to discuss plays, not referee decisions, because those are the kind of things that tend to make you question the integrity of the league, of the sport. And when something like that starts to happen, you question the whole, what is the point of pro sports?
Yeah. And is there gambling going on? Is there all kinds of stuff? So
so that's hopefully, but Palmeiras has a game on Saturday. They're gonna play against Juventude. It's a makeup game, still from the June, because they were out in the FIFA Club World Cup because of the FIFA break. Brazil plays tomorrow, a friendly against South Korea, and US is they're gonna have a big game in the World Cup under 20. There are
we lost to South Africa.
Just tonight, US defeated Italy to make it to the under 20 World Cup quarterfinals.
Good. Again, it's good to see.
So they're 3-0. What a win. What they beat Italy, one of the most important soccer nations. So congrats to them. Brazil.
These U20 players going to be in the national team.
Yeah, definitely. Mauricio Pochettino should take a look in this roster to see who is good enough to make it to next year's U.S. lineup.
It looks especially Benjamin Cremaschi scored twice. So
yeah,
he plays for Parma.
FC. Yes. So
I guess it's in Italy.
Italia.
Only 20. So
yeah, Brazil was eliminated in the group stage, and the coach was fired. After that poor result. So
of course, our other guy who scored, Nico Sarkias, plays for San Jose. So I said, less MLS players, more European players, please. Which I guess I know it's a lot more complicated than that, but still.
Yeah, but yeah. So hopefully, things in Brazil get more discussed about the plays and not the referee. But Palmeiras is in first place, back same points with Flamengo, but Flamengo is using this episode that I just point out to you kind of like a scapegoat, because they only won one game on the last 4 matches, so they're kind of losing points. And Palmeiras only lost 1 game out of the last 5, so they're really taking a toll. That they're really getting up, and they're now first place, and they're gonna play Saturday, and if they win, they're going to be 3 points ahead. Flamengo with the same number of games. So let's see what's good. Also, Saturday, the Paulista Cup final. You remember we talked more about the Paulista Cup when Rio Branco's in, but the final is two teams that were on Rio Branco's group. 15 de Piracicaba and Primavera from Indaiatuba. Primavera won first game 1-0. 15 de Piracicaba, all the games are sold out. All tickets were sold. They're going to even put a big screen outside the stadium for the fans who did not had an opportunity to buy tickets. So it's going to be a massive game. Unfortunately, I won't be there because due to booth media booth limitations, I didn't have my radio booth. So I was like, you know what? What's the point of going if I cannot have a place to broadcast? So I'm going to broadcast another big game on Saturday, the Campinas Derby, Ponte Preta and Guarani. If Guarani wins, they're going to be back in the second division of the Brazilian Championship and also eliminate Ponte Preta of the final of third division. So big weekend here in the Campinas area. So we'll see about that. So that's it for Brazil. And I guess that's it for tonight.
Absolutely. Of course, Cubs have won 6-0. So we will have a game 5 Saturday night in Milwaukee, 2 game 5s tomorrow night in Seattle for the Mariners, Tigers, and on Saturday for Cubs and Brewers, of course. So next week we'll know our ALCS and NLCS. But for Gus Tomazelli, I'm Nick Hill. Thank you so much for watching 2 Countries, 2 Americas, all sports. Have a great night.